that first off, he gave me some wildly imaginative stuff, but he had me on what we would call a very long leash. In other words, some directors keep you on a tight leash. You wander at all from what they think they want, and they kind of beat you back into line. And Tim was always very much like, he wouldn't tell me what to do. I would just go off and do it. And then when there was music to play him, of course, he had his opinion, naturally. But it was a very long leash. He let me wander. For example, when I wrote the theme to Edward Scissorhands, I was like, Tim's going to hate this. Because it sounds kind of like Eastern European. In fact, it sounds like, almost like Eastern Europe people. Some directors would listen and go, he's not an Eastern European Jew. So why are you writing what sounds like a Jewish, Eastern European, Lithuanian theme or somewhere, from Hungary? And it was. And I'm not, I was aware of that too. And so when I played it for him, I was hoping he would go, not make that kind of comment, that literal comment, because unfortunately he doesn't think that way. He thinks just strictly how he feels about something, not like, is this the right type of music from the right type of genre, from the right type of place or background that would, first off, what kind of background would you have for a created creature that has no genetic information whatsoever? But the point is that some directors would have kind of criticized me for that, and Tim didn't, and I really appreciate that quality of Tim, that if he feels it, he goes with it, whether it makes any logical sense or not. Also, I kind of had two themes for Edward, and no themes for anybody else in the story. And that was just happened that way. And again, some directors will go, well, you need this and that. And I just felt like, no, these two themes are covering the two sides of his personality, this kind of magical thing, and this sad side to him. And so he fell right into that. And now in hindsight, I realized how rare that is. Now that I've done about 110 films, I look back and I go, that was just a real gift that I was able to have that leeway to do what I was feeling.
So would you say, writing for Edward Scissorhands, would you say that was one of your biggest creative risks that you've taken, or what would you say is...
No, everything I did back then was a risk, because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. So I wasn't thinking about risks at that point. I was just thinking about learning how to do it better. My first 20 films, Pee-wee was number 1, Beetlejuice was number 5, Batman was number 10, Edward was number 14, almost to 15. At a certain point, Tim is going, how are you able to do 4 films between each one of my films, and you're in the band? I go, because I'm trying to learn how to be a film composer, and each of your films are asking more of me. And if I didn't do 9 films before Batman, I wouldn't have been able to do Batman. If I didn't do 4 before Beetlejuice, I wouldn't have been able to pull it off. I was really training myself hard between each of his films. And so it wasn't about risk-taking. It was just about hanging on by the seat of my pants more.